Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Road End Podcast. Each episode we will speak to a new guest, get to know them and hear their stories about Liverpool Football Club.
Hello everyone and welcome to Season 2 of the Road End Podcast. Today I'm joined by former Red, Bolo Zenden. Bolo was part of the brilliant Rafael Benitez era at Liverpool. First of all, thanks for joining. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Nice for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. Let's start with how you became a footballer, Bolo. At what point would you say that you knew you could make a career out of this?
I guess it was rather late, to be honest. I always wanted to be. Let's say first of all, I just love the game. I love football. Ever since I was a kid, I was always kicking a ball. Then gradually you grow into it, where you start playing for your locals. Then you get invited for the let's say the district teams, and then all of a sudden you're also selected for the national teams, and then by the time then you're already picked up by the professional clubs and you start playing for them. And when I was 13, I started at PSV Eindhoven officially. I already did a few friendlies with them, but then I joined them, so the academy. And then I was 17, still playing in the under 18s, and I was also asked to play a friendly with the first team. So that was for me really something special. But still then, I wasn't sure if you were going to make it, because there's examples enough. Even up to then, you can't really tell who's going to make it or not.
Yeah.
I was still doing my school. And then in one trip, we went to Alicante in Spain. We played 2 games against Spanish sides. And I was still doing my exams. So I took my books with me on that little trip. And then on the way back, the manager sat down next to me in the plane and said, do you fancy becoming a professional and start playing for us? And I was thinking, yeah, of course. And then he said, well, you're starting then next week with us. And I'm thinking, but I'm still doing exams.
Yeah.
So obviously when I told my mom and dad, they said, no way. You first have to do your school. So that was a deal that I was going to do my last year of exams, and if I would graduate, if you want to call it, then I would start after the summer as a professional. So that's how it went. I signed my first professional deal at the age of 17, and then joined the first team for preseason. So for me, it was basically then when I thought, okay, who knows, this might be it. But then still, because, to give you an idea, at PSV, there was a culture where they always signed the bigger players. So back then, it wasn't obvious that the youth players got a chance. Mostly they were out on loan and then sold. Ajax was very much more of integrating the youth, get them a place in the first team, and then sell them on. So still I thought, okay, my mom and dad said, let's have a go for the next 2 years, and if it doesn't work out, you can still pick up your studies. But in the end, it did work out.
So it seems in Holland they have a nature of bringing through youth. The youth that comes through the Dutch international system tend to go for millions and millions of pounds. Now, what do you think the difference is with the chances that you get in Holland compared to the chances you get in England as a youth player?
Oh, it's been the money. What I mean with it is, in Holland, we don't have the money to spend and buy all these players. So we have to develop the youngsters. With that, because you don't buy them, we are, as I said, basically same as me, 17, 18-year-old. You get your chance in first team football. So very young, you're actually in the first team. You're training with them. You can develop yourself. You're playing in a proper league. And of course, you cannot compare the Premier League with the Eredivisie. So it's a perfect way to gradually grow yourself into senior football. And also because the Dutch, they also play many times in European competitions. At a young age, you already get this experience playing European football. Now, for example, if you look at Premier League, I mean, the clubs have so much money, they can always buy the bigger players. And of course, if you can buy an end product, that's always easier than develop. If you bring on a youngster, of course he will not play week in, week out at a top level. Where if you buy someone who's whatever 25, 26, who's already shown himself in a different league or even in the same league, then it's more easy to integrate into the team. So it's a matter of patience, I think. I think in Holland we have more patience with the youngsters and give them the time to grow. I guess it's like a flower, right? It needs a bit of water, but if you give it too much, it'll drown. And, it's so I don't think it's the pressure itself. It's more the whole complexity of the whole structure of how the teams are run and how the money's been spent. And obviously, we always want to develop young players and give them a chance and then sell them on, because that's the whole market, how it's working for the Dutch.
So right now, obviously, Liverpool have just signed Cody Gakpo, and I know if I'm right in saying, did you coach him or was you part of the coaching whilst he was at PSV?
Yes, I was at PSV for the last 9 years and the last 7 at the first team. So I've seen Cody come from the youth ranks, come to the first team, and also most of the time I was an individual coach, like for the forwards. Because I speak some languages, I also did the same for some of the foreigners, like the French or the Spanish, the Latinos. So I really work closely with him. So I saw him come, and how another example of how it goes with the Dutch. So Cody comes from the youth, the under 17s, 18s, then goes to the reserves. The reserves in Holland, they actually play in the well, you would call it the first division. So they would literally play one league below the Premier League. So they already get senior football there now. So they don't need to be on loan to another team who's playing in the second division. Of course, you call it differently.
Championship.
But championship football. Yeah. So they already get this senior football under the belts, and then when you join the first team, obviously you try to get your chances. You come on, you can be important as a sub. Then you do it so well that you get a chance to be a starter. Then it goes not the way you like it. Maybe you can play well for an hour, and then you're being pulled off, and then you grow on to be a starter for 90 minutes. Like in the case of Cody, he did all of that, played well as a starter, got called up for the national team. This year was captain for PSV. Had a great season where in the beginning he had a lot of assists, a lot of crosses in. Then he wanted to score more goals, so he started to score more goals, and then he had less assists. And in the last part of his game, he combined both. So he scored a lot of goals, had a lot of assists, was the captain, was a crowd favorite, had the interest of different clubs, went to the World Cup, scored in the first 3 games of the group stage, left footer, right footer, and a header. And that put himself on very well in the market. And he got his transfer. And it's a perfect example of how youth can or should be developed. And then, of course, PSV don't want to let him go, but that's the way the market works. And in the end, I think it's good for both parties.
Obviously, we don't know how things are going to work out for Cody. Hopefully a massive success, given the players he has round him and the coaching staff. How do you feel he will transition into the English game?
As I said, he already did a lot. So it's not that he's new to the scene. It's not that he's a player that is... of course, he's still young, but at 23 is different than, let's say, 19 or 20. Yeah. As I said, he was captain, so he's been a senior, matured in his game, and I think that will help him at Liverpool. There's 2 things actually. As we know, Liverpool have a lot of injuries. That was maybe also one of the reasons why they wanted to get him now in the winter time instead of in the summer. So they really need him up front. So he will get minutes, I think, really quickly. That is an advantage where he can actually be brought in. We all know that the results haven't been the way we would have liked. The form has not been best. They're not in full pace in the league. So for him to come in, you could say, well, it's a difficult time because it's not going the way it should be. On the other side, if he comes in and he does well, he can actually lift them up and take them to another level again and build a momentum together. So we have to wait and see. But of course, why has he been bought by Liverpool is obvious. I think Jurgen Klopp said it also this week. He said it's a player who's seen it, who's done it, who's got pace, transition. He's got height. I believe it was last year when I said to him, Cody, I said, "Are you still growing?" He says, "It seems like every week I see you, you're getting bigger, taller." So yeah, he's got length. He's got pace. He can pick a ball from the middle and start a dribble. The only question mark for me, in a sense, is of course he's used to playing 3 games a week with PSV when you play in Europe and the Dutch league, combined with the cup games. But I think the intensity of the Premier League and the intensity of the way Liverpool plays, I think that will need some adaptation. How long? I don't know. Maybe he will crack on straight away, have 3 fantastic months, and then maybe have a little bit of a dip, which is usual if you cross the river and you have to settle yourself in a new city, a new country, a new league. The good thing is the language will not be a problem. Well, though I'm not sure if he speaks a little bit of Scouse, but
He will soon.
Yeah, no, and as you mentioned, I think the big help will be that the big boss is still there. There's a Dutch assistant. We have Big Verge, who's already spoken to him, obviously, before he signed. There's too many players around that will help him and sort him out. Of course, also Hendo is a great captain to be around these type of players and sort him out to feel comfortable. Someone also asked me and said, "Are you not disappointed that he left PSV?" And I said, "Well, to be honest, of course it's a bit disappointing that he left our family, but he joined another family, so I'm pleased."
That's good. I like that. Good answer. Let's talk about your career. Over 100 appearances for PSV before you then moved on to Barcelona. I think it's a thing of everybody's dreams to step out at the Nou Camp. How was that first moment of you stepping on that pitch?
Well, it's a funny one because with PSV we played in the Champions League. Okay. So we've already played Barca in the group stages at one point. Actually, 2 seasons in a row we played Barcelona. So nice. I had already been in the Camp Nou. Yeah. So what I can recall from the first game, so not as a Barca player, but as a PSV player, I came there and I always thought it's a massive, big stadium. But when you arrive there, I really thought, is this it? Because I really thought it was bigger than that. But as soon as you arrive to the stadium, you actually have to go 2 or 3 levels down to the dressing rooms, and then you actually enter the pitch. So the pitch is maybe 3 levels down from the outside. So yeah, of course it's massive when you're in the stadium and you enter the pitch. It's like, it's a stadium that can hold 100,000 people. Of course, it's massive, and it really it gives you a feeling of an arena with gladiators and stuff. You know what I mean? So it's been wonderful. It's been a pleasure. It's of course something that you dream of as a player, to make these kind of moves. And that's what I said as a kid as well. You never dreamed of being in these places, but you always wanted to be the best and perform and be better than yesterday. And then in the end, there's something, the opportunities like these come along.
What was it like to, when you did make that move to Barcelona, what was it like to share a dressing room with the likes of Pep, Puyol, Kluivert, Rivaldo, Xavi, just to name a few?
Yeah, it's of course it's the bigger names in football. There's also like your question is the same as don't you pinch yourself when you look around the stadium and you see these players like Rivaldo, Figo, Luis Enrique, Guardiola. Of course, in a way it's special, but I just came off a World Cup with Holland, where we got to the semi-finals, where we played Brazil. So in a way, you're one of them. So when you enter the dressing room, it's the same. Of course, it's special, but it's day-to-day business, and you need to do your work. You need to perform, and then obviously, as I said, you're one of them. And because you have some kind of qualities, that's why you're there as well. It was totally different when I was 17 and first moved into the senior dressing room at PSV, and there was players like Hans van Breukelen, the old goalkeeper. I really, shook his hand and I said, "Mr. van Breukelen," and he looked at me strangely, saying, "Well, don't call me Mr. Just call me call me Hans." So that was totally different. But yeah, of course, it's been a fantastic journey to be in these circumstances with these players, not just at Barca, but also afterwards with all the other clubs I've been.
It's nice to hear that though, because I know players can go into dressing rooms, let's say like Barcelona and Liverpool, Chelsea, places like that, and they can be swallowed up a little bit. You see players that do make these moves, and they don't quite come out the shells because it's all a bit overwhelming. But to hear you go in and feel like you're part of that already, that's brilliant.
Well, I think it is what it is, isn't it? And of course, in the beginning, it's always strange when you put on a different jersey. It always looks weird because you're not used to it. But yeah, of course, after 2 days, you're used to it, and then that's day-to-day business.
Moving on to your time at Liverpool, I think we just won the Champions League as you signed just afterwards.
Well, I knew of the interest when Liverpool played in Istanbul, and I remember watching it from my holiday address and looking at the first half and thinking, "Oh my God, what's going on? This isn't right." A lot of people actually left the TV because they thought it was a done deal, but
Yeah.
obviously I stick to it and I watched it all the way through, and it was just an amazing game to watch, just like all the other Liverpool fans, I guess. And for me, it was special because I knew about the interest, but there was still a little game to play. And then after the game, obviously, which had a heroic win with the penalties shootout and stuff, that there had to be celebrations first. So it took a little bit before I actually signed, and then I signed for Liverpool in the knowledge as well that obviously Liverpool was going to play the European Super Cup.
Yeah.
Was against CSKA Moscow. So when you win the Champions League, that a lot of stuff that is collateral damage, but that comes with it, with winning it. Because also the other thing was to go to Japan and play the World Cup for teams. So there were so many things coming and happening that, of course, I was more than delighted to join Liverpool at that stage. And not just because of the win, but in general, I had a few very good years at previously what caught the interest. And then my first contact to join Liverpool came through Luis Garcia, who I knew from my time at Barca. Was if I was interested in move, and then obviously afterwards the contact was with Rafa.
And how was it when you got that call, or when you spoke to Rafa? Did you get that feeling like I want to be there?
Well, yeah, you don't need anybody to convince you, is it? It's like now Cody had probably a chat with Big Verge. I don't think anybody needed to convince him. It's more that sometimes you need to know some ins and outs to make a decision and make the right decision, and also importantly to know what to do and what not to do.
So you spent most of your career, let's say, wide left, and I noticed you transitioned into a left-sided central midfielder at one point at Liverpool. Was that something you was comfortable with?
Yeah, the funny part is I've always been a player that could play in different positions. But yeah, mostly I played on the left-hand side. Even in my time at Barca, I played as a left-back, attacking a type of left-back like you have Robertson at the minute.
Yeah.
So back then it wasn't so much because you always had a player tucked on the line in front of you. Now the wide players, they play a bit more on the inside. So there's more space for the fullbacks to bomb on. Then in my time at Middlesbrough, I think I played more as a central midfielder, central left midfielder with runs in behind. Yeah, and then of course also at Liverpool, I played in different positions, also in the middle. I believe even I played a few games somewhere on the 10 position behind the strikers. So it's always been a joy to actually be playing in different positions. Actually, sometimes it's good because whenever there's a gap, you can fill it. On the other side, sometimes you're more. If you're stuck to just the one position, then there's never a doubt whose position it is because it's yours. And sometimes if you play in different ones, I mean, obviously you get shifted around a bit more.
Your time at Liverpool, if I remember right, you suffered 2 pretty big injuries. What would say held you up a little bit?
Well, a little bit, you can say so. I started off my first season, played quite a lot. We won obviously the European Super Cup, but actually that's what I remember is we played a Champions League game at home against Betis Seville, and 5 minutes before time, I tried to push a ball outside the pitch, and the defender who tried to jump over my leg got stuck a bit on my knee, and I felt a bit weird, but I still managed to finish the game, which was maybe 5 minutes plus 5 extra time. And I remember going back into the dressing room to the doctor and said, "Listen, I'm not sure about my knee. It felt a bit weird." And he said, "Okay, let's check it." So we had a little check, and he said, "We'll do scans on tomorrow." and my knee wasn't really thick or anything, so there wasn't a lot of fluid. And then the next day when we did the scans, there's a possible ACL rupture. I'm thinking, no way, it's not going to happen, because it didn't feel so bad.
Yeah.
So what I did is I trained for another 2 weeks by myself to see if I could solve it. But every time I stepped on something or I slipped in the grass, my knee would lose its stability. So I would just go through the knee. And we decided to do a second opinion in Holland. And I did the second opinion, and they said exactly the same. They said, listen, the ACL is gone. You have to get it fixed. And then Liverpool gave me the opportunity to choose wherever I wanted to do the operation. And back then, it was a big thing to go to Vail, Colorado, where you had Stedman, one of the biggest surgeons who did all these ACLs. So literally, the day Liverpool flew to Japan for the World Cup for club teams, I flew to the US. So literally in the same day, they flew that way and I flew the other way to get my knee surgery. So that was a very big blow because I really was focused and so much looking forward to play in Japan, the World Cup. So I had to get my knee surgery done, and normally it's 9 months. Yeah. And I remember together with the physios, because I had the surgery in the US, but I did my recovery at Liverpool. We worked really hard, 6 days a week. It was hard. It was hard at times because when you're at Melwood, you have a big glass window, and I was there on my bike doing my exercises, and I saw the guys playing football all day. So it was tough. Yeah, it was hard. But we also said that if we can do it quicker, then we'll do it quicker. So in the end of the same season, I was actually training with a team, and we were still playing the FA Cup final against West Ham. But the actual game against West Ham came maybe 2 weeks too early for me. So I was in full training, but I hadn't played a game. So that was another memorable game when Stevie G had a few shots from right range.
What a day.
And then Peperena, our penalty killer, who did the job. Just another amazing day, another amazing page to the Liverpool history. And then I had a preseason like everybody else. So that was my second season. And then I think it was literally a year after. So in October somewhere, also in a game, I twisted my knee a bit and I didn't know what happened. And eventually it turned out to be a exterior meniscus rupture. So because it was on the same knee, because I was already out before, normally you would say a exterior meniscus operation would take maybe 8 weeks, but it took me, I think, 10 or 12. It took me longer to recover. So there you go. There's another 2-3 months that I lost in my second year, and then the massive one. Well, massive. Some that most of people don't really know is that I played a lot, especially in Europe. I played all the games in the Champions League, and that's when we got to another Champions League final again against AC Milan, literally 2 years after. And we had a preseason. Well, not a preseason, but like a pre-week going up to that game. I think we were in the final was in Greece, but we played. I think we went to somewhere in Spain for 5-6 days, just to get used to the weather and stuff before we flew to Greece. And literally in training, I got tangled by Stevie G, and I twisted my ankle, and I literally had my ankle was this big, and I think I even shredded here at the side of the training pitch then when I thought, listen, it's not going to happen and I'm going to lose another final because I already lost, the World Cup for club teams. And then with the physios, once again, I think we worked 24/7, and we managed to get myself back up to actually start the game. So my ankle was wrapped up massively. I had an injection as well, and I knew I wasn't going to last the full game. So I gave what I had in 60 minutes, and we hope that with fresh legs that we could do the job. But the Italians were warned 2 years ago when obviously they were 3-0 down and still lost it, 3-0 up and still lost it. Milan came up front with a lucky goal, and then to be honest, they had a good second goal. We still fought back as we always do at Liverpool. 2-1, but it wasn't enough. So it's always a massive moment or achievement to actually be playing a Champions League final, because I mean there's not many teams that go all that way. But losing a final it's something that you wouldn't wish anybody, because I always say a final you play to win it. And if you don't win it, then sometimes you have the feeling you might as well not have played the final.
Some people would say that 2007 side, including myself, was a much better side and a much better performance over the 90 minutes. Did you sort of feel after that game that, what could we have done any more?
Well, you always think so. For me, myself, I think it was, I was disappointed in a way that due to my physical problems, I wasn't at my best. That's why sometimes I think, well, what if it didn't happen before? You know, that you were really at your peak. The other thing is that what I found a bit a pity is that we played in the Olympic Stadium with the athletic track around it, and the fans were so far away from us. It's like, if you play this type of games, you want it to be packed close, right on the lips of the pitch. You know, it's like so that interaction with the fans that was slightly different. You always got flashbacks. What if, the chances that you had, or the what ifs. And like I said, the first goal for Milan was a lucky one, which was deflected free kick on the back of someone, and then it turned out to go the other way. Then Pepe Reina went. So yeah, of course, there's always moments in the game where you think could have gone differently, but it wasn't to be. So yeah.
You've won plenty of major honours throughout your career: the Eredivisie, La Liga, League Cup, UEFA Super Cup, and Dutch Young Player of the Year. But if you take back all of your memories as a footballer, what would you say meant the most to you as an honour?
Well, I found it difficult to say, because if you win something individually, it's nice, but you always win it because of your teammates. Sometimes you win something and maybe, yes, you had a part of it, and sometimes you had a big part of it, sometimes a small part of it. What sticks with me is that, I guess, everywhere I've been, as you mentioned, I've either won something or achieved something or did something nice. At least I had good memories, met good people. And I think everywhere I've been, I can always go back and they will receive me with open arms. And it's been a real pleasure and honor to actually be able to make something, to make your hobby your work, if you want to call it work even, and get to see the world and be in different places, learn different languages and cultures. And it's, as a human being, that's all that you put in your rucksack, in your bag, and take it with you as personal luggage. Those memories will always stay.
You spent a lot of years in England. I'd say you've got the English twang.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always funny. Also, when you live in certain places, you adapt your accent in a way. So, of course, when I lived in Liverpool, I started to talk a bit more. I wouldn't call it Scouse, but you know what I mean. And then when I lived up in Northeast, it was a bit more that way. Like with Hendo and Julken.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And then obviously down in the south, when you're amongst the Londoners, that's also a different kind of language. So you always adapt. And I even had it in France. I played in the south of France with Marseille. And obviously in Paris, they speak different French than in the south. So for example, just a little one then, if you are in Paris, a roundabout would be a rond-point. And then in the south, rond-point. It's like
it's totally different.
No, it's the same, but it's different. It's like, yeah, of course, you know all about it in Liverpool.
Yeah, people struggle with our accent.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I to be honest, I had it a little bit with Cara, when Cara spoke many times. Thinking, say that again, But he's working for years now for the English TV, so I'm sure that everybody understands him quite well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be on television every single night. So. Good to him.
Lastly, before we move on to the quickfire round, I'd just like to thank you for being on here for various reasons. You've had a hectic schedule, I can imagine.
Well, I like the view. If I knew I had this view, maybe you would have had me on earlier.
just to summarize the podcast then. What advice do you have for any young up-and-coming footballer? What would you say to them to stick at or focus on, or what's your advice?
I think it's rather easy. I don't know when you're going to put the podcast out, but it's January.
A couple of weeks, yeah.
So it's January and everybody's full of, I'm going to do this and that in January. And it's not because it's January. It's because it's what you do. It's because of what you like, or it's because that's what you want to do. So I guess it's the same with football. Why do you play football? It's because that's what you want to do. It's not because it's January or whatever. No, it's because that's what you want to do. If you like football, then you will enjoy every single element of it. You will do this day in, day out. So if you are, that's why I don't want to call it motivation. It's like more something that comes from inside. That will keep you going. That will keep you moving. That will keep you hungry. That will keep you motivated to be better and better. And then in the end, things will happen. Of course, down the line, you'll need a little bit of luck. You don't need to get big injuries and all this kind of stuff. And people sometimes need to be in the right place to be seen or whatever. But if you don't have this fire from inside, then of course it's never going to work, because anything you want to do in life, you need that burning desire to actually be the best, or do whatever you like, and then things will happen. So that's the only advice I have, is enjoy yourself, because when you enjoy yourself, I think it doesn't cost you any energy to do as much as you need to do to actually become better in whatever you want to do in life.
Yeah. Definitely. I like
strong words, heavy words.
We are now going to do a quick fire round with our guests. This could be very controversial.
Moving on to the quick fire round. I'll ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Quick responses. Try not to think too much into it. Just a bit of fun.
No thinking. That's me. No, I'm joking.
So let's go. Beer or wine?
Oh, I'm teetotal. What are you asking? I don't drink alcohol.
There we go. Well, there's that gone. Pepsi or Coke?
Coke.
Nou Camp or Anfield?
Ooh, can I combine something? Yeah, can I?
Yeah.
Camp Nou with Liverpool fans. I need to be back at the new Anfield, because I've heard it's much bigger and better than what it was. So
yeah,
I might change my mind.
Nike or Adidas?
Nike.
Dutch pancakes or English pancakes?
Ooh, Dutch pancakes.
Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard?
Oh my God, what a choice. How can you even pick? No, nearly impossible. Nearly impossible. Can we gel them somewhere?
Go on.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Frank Gerrard.
Virgil van Dijk or Frank de Boer?
Ooh. Well, I played with Frank, so I'll go for Frank.
Perfect. Okay, that's done. Not too much pressure, I hope.
No. You told me not to think, but it's nearly impossible. Sometimes it's choosing between one or two of your childs. It's impossible.
Thanks very much for your time. I really appreciate you coming on, and I really wish you nothing but the best for you and your family going forward. And I'd love to see you back at Anfield one day. So big thumbs up for that.
Well, thank you for having me. And first of all, for yourself, I wish you all the best. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Stay in a good state of mind. And for the last bit, I definitely want to visit Anfield again. Bring my boys. They haven't been yet. 8 and 11, and the other one is 11 on Friday. So I definitely want to bring them over to Anfield and give them a feel of what it's like to be there with all these people singing You Never Walk Alone.
Right. Have a good birthday, little one. And hopefully catch you soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks to everyone for listening in to today's podcast, and thank you to our amazing guests. Without them, this wouldn't be possible. Don't forget to follow us on social media, twitter.com/The Road End Pod, and on Instagram, Instagram/The Road End Pod.